And so, at this point, at this level of my life, you
Yeah,
begin to think about your legacy and what is
right.
it that you want to leave to your children, to your family, to your friends, to your community and nation and the world at large. What is it that you want to be remembered for? And
Yeah,
so I think a lot about that as I'm contemplating leaving the workforce after 55 years and going out on my own and either doing
mhm,
coaching or mentoring, or even returning to working with English language learners. What does that look like? And I think many of us kind of get caught up in but is it the right time? Do I have enough money?
mhm.
Will people come? All of those hows,
Yeah,
all the steps of how I'm going to do something. And I
right.
think what came from Terry as well as from Mary Morrissey's course is the why is the critical part.
Mhm, mhm.
Why do I wanna do XYZ?
That is an excerpt from this podcast episode that you're going to hear today, and you are going to glean so much from it. It's the longest podcast episode I've ever done, and I decided not to cut it because Gretchen is an amazing storyteller. So grab your coffee, grab your headphones, sit back, and learn from Gretchen Espinetti. Hello, beautiful Redlow women. How are you today? It's Terri here, your coach and biggest cheerleader. I'm here to put a little bit of inspiration in your day. Welcome to the Redlow Women podcast, where we empower midlife women to reclaim their confidence, rise higher, and step boldly into their next chapter. And we do it together. Well, hello, everyone. I am so excited for my guest today. You're going to meet Gretchen Espinetti. And I actually coach Gretchen, and we stay connected. She is in my Redlow Women's Circle beta group, and she's become not only a trusted friend, but an advisor to me. I have so much respect for her. And you're just going to glean so many golden nuggets. We were actually talking even before we were on camera here, and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have hit record. She just does it naturally, but, she's a deep thinker like I am. She loves words. We both kinda nerd out on them. By trade, she is an educator, and she's taught at the highest level. So to me, she's Dr. Gretchen Espinetti. You're going to see her wealth of knowledge. She's a teacher just naturally. Those close to Gretchen call her Gretty. I think it's because of her light, her warmth, her wit. She's whip smart and someone I just greatly adore, and she's naturally a coach. So, without further ado, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here, Gretchen. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Terry. I really appreciate it, and, I send you much sunshine from
Mhm.
Florida, and,
Mm,
just so looking forward to our conversation and all that we've shared in the really very short years we've known each other, but I feel like we've known each other for a lifetime, and I hope that will continue. So, thank you so much.
likewise. Well, thank you. And I say, if we move to Florida, we're going to connect in person. Um,
I'm here.
but let's just kind of start off. I know I sent you some questions in advance, just to always kind of ponder and think, but you just have such a wealth of knowledge just for who you are. You know, my audience, share who you are, a little bit about your background,
Sure.
because it's super
Sure.
intriguing. So dive in.
Yeah.
Go ahead and share. Start where you want.
Okay. Well, I'm proud to say I grew up in New England on the seacoast of New Hampshire, and a lot of people say there's a seacoast because I think they think of some of the New England states, but particularly New Hampshire, as sort of cow farms and country, and there is that. But I grew up on the ocean, which
Mhm.
Terry knows I absolutely love. It's my peace place. It's my place I go to for inspiration, and thankfully moving to Florida has given me that opportunity again to be on the Atlantic Ocean and just what it brings to me, the words that come to me, and how it helps me navigate my life. So, at an early age, at I'd say 5 or 6 years old, I used to hold school in our basement in our house, and I knew at that point that I wanted to be a teacher. I just, it was within me. So I had
Mm,
school after school every day, and created books and all kinds of materials. So I did indeed go into that career. I went to American International College in Springfield, Mass, and was a double major in elementary education. And at that time, it became a new field, ESL. So my most of my career in education was involved with English language learners here in the United
Ah.
States and several other countries. And then I went on for a master's in linguistics and educational leadership at George Washington University. And from there, I was hired to go to the Pacific, to 3 different countries to teach for the Department of Defense schools, which was just really life-changing, and I think really solidified why I love to travel, why I love other
Mm,
cultures and languages, and I just really connect to people from other cultures, and even here in
mm,
the United States, I think
mm,
we think we're one country, and we are indeed that. But if you move to different regions of our country, you find different cultures and dialects, etcetera, so that's always been very intriguing to me. My maternal grandmother came from Sweden with her sister when she was 18 years old by ship and came through
wow.
Ellis Island, and never went home for 50 years. So, many in my family have always called me the pioneer, just like
Mm,
Ganella. And so
mm,
I love that and I honor that because she was just an incredible woman. I think back
mm,
to when she arrived in the United States in 1918, women didn't even have the right to vote in the United States. So, what a pioneer she was. And she didn't speak English. And so she became a pastry chef,
mm,
delicious pastry chef,
mm,
and, eventually met my grandfather, and they had 4 children, and, just a wonderful, wonderful person, and I will always adore Bina Ganella.
mm,
She was
mm.
just my inspiration, I think, and I didn't really know that at a young age, but certainly as I reflect now on my life, she certainly had a great impact.
Yeah. Wow.
So I taught, uh, mostly young children, K through 3,
Mm,
in 1 year of high school of English language learners throughout the United States, in New England, in the Washington, D.C. area, in California, and then, as I said, I was placed in Okinawa, Japan, and then the Philippines, and then South Korea. I've also done teacher training in Haiti when it was safer to be in that country,
yeah.
and for the last 10 years, summers in Poland. So
Mm,
I've visited, I think, about 35 countries, 5 continents, and about 35 states in the US. So I still have some exploring and discovering to do in the United States, which I would like to do. But many more trips in my life, I hope,
mm,
to explore and discover. And as Terry knows too, I love quotes, I love words. I think
yeah.
I kind of inherited that from my father.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite ones is by Marcel Proust, who was a French writer in the 1900s. But he said, "The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes."
Mm,
And I just
mm,
love that because I think as I continue to move forward in my professional and personal life, that's what I think, seeing things with different eyes and different perspectives. And I think that's a really important message to pass on to my own son, my one and only
mm,
son who lives in New York City, but also to family and friends and people of the world. I think if we
mm,
could all have our sights set on seeking with different eyes, it would really help.
mhm. Yeah, how perfect right now for that quote, just where we are. We don't need to go into all that, but just like what
Right,
a powerful thing just to see things through someone else's eyes. I just heard a really great thing that until we really get to know, somebody that's on the other
right.
side of where we
Yeah,
think, but once we sit down and have a conversation, we're heart to heart, belly to belly, we see things
yeah,
through their eyes, gives us
yeah.
greater compassion. So, what a beautiful quote. I love it so much. And that really defines who you are. I love it
Yes.
that, you see your grandmother as a pioneer, but you are too. Pioneer
Mhm.
for women. You really are,
Yeah.
Gritty. I love it so much. Um, that kinda leads into the next thing I really wanted you to share, like, you have this passion for TCK. If I get that wrong, tell me it's wrong, but
No,
share
that's
what that
right.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
and just passion for younger people that have lived in other countries or born in other countries, and you connect with people just beautifully anyway, no matter their age, but you really have a heart for this younger generation too.
Mhm.
Um And we're gonna dive into that and talk about, your work that you do in Poland, and it's amazing, but share a little bit about that, what that really means to you,
Yeah.
and if I've skipped ahead too far, let me know.
No, it's a perfect segue. One of my passions really, began in 1983, one of many passions, but in 1983, when I was teaching on Okinawa, which is a
Mhm.
tiny island. When I was asked if I would go, my first assignment with the Department of Defense Schools to Okinawa, I didn't even know where it was.
Oh,
And I
interesting.
said, "Sure." And my parents were like, "Are you sure?" And I said, I wanna go. I wanna go abroad and experience other cultures, and something much more challenging, at the time, I spoke French, Spanish, and English, but not Japanese. So I said, what
Mhm.
better way to really delve into a culture and their language, which is the window into the culture, but to go to a tiny island in the Pacific, and
Mm.
so I did. I arrived on Okinawa, and a year later, my boyfriend at the time was living in Washington, D.C. He proposed to me with a ring and a card, sent across the Pacific, and he said, "Come home at Christmas, we'll get married, and then I'll join you." And so I said, "Sure, what a great idea."
Wow.
So that's indeed what we did, and, the next year, I was blessed to give birth to my one and only child, my son, Enrique, who I
Mm,
just absolutely adore. He has turned out to be such a
mm,
fine man and husband now, and hopefully, someday, uh, a father.
mm,
So, he lives in New York City, he's in the advertising world, highly creative, takes after my father a lot, and has continued not only the tradition, but the love for travel and
mm.
exploring and discovering, etcetera, and thankfully met his wife who's an ESL teacher, blonde
Wow.
hair, middle sister. She has 2 sisters like I did, all these connections, and so they travel extensively and, continue that.
I love that.
But his birth, from the moment he was born, I just always had this idea in the back of my head of how does this experience of being born in a country that's not the country of origin of your mother or father,
Mhm,
how and I just had this sort of gnawing at me, nudging at me for years that in a good way, a good
mhm,
nudge, but how does that make a difference in someone's life? And
mm,
again, not in terms of judging that other people that choose to stay in one place their whole life. It's not about that. It's simply, I knew deep inside it had impacted and changed my life. So, how would it be similar or different for my son as
yeah,
he grew and moved forward with his life? And so, my last 10 years in the education field were spent at Kent State University in Ohio, and I was teaching there in the education program, but also directed a huge student teaching and international student teaching program, and so, my son also attended there, was a photography and graphic design major, and so I began to kind of ponder this and just ask him questions, as well as some of my students who had shared. I grew up in India, and then we moved to Africa, and then we moved here, and we moved there, and we came back to the US, and I was in high school, and I felt totally lost in a country that was supposed to be my country of origin, but I was
mm,
born in XYZ country. So, in a very simple way, TCK stands for Third Culture Children,
mm,
and it was coined by husband and wife sociologists who took their sons to, I believe it was India in the 50s. And really, if you think about Peace Corps, missionaries, business now, people that are traveling abroad for some kind of job or position. So basically, it's someone who is born abroad in a
mhm,
country to parents who are not from that culture or country, might be the United States, might be Spain, might be another country, and then at some point return to the country of origin of one or more of the parents. And again, what does that experience as you move? between and among cultures and languages, and especially if it's a non-English country, how does that affect you as a person,
Yeah.
psychologically, emotionally? And I began to see in my college students, as I interviewed them for my dissertation and my PhD program, that there were some qualities that I thought in our world now, these are really needed, no matter
Mm,
if you work in the United States or in other countries,
mhm.
doesn't matter where you work. We all need people who are adaptable, flexible, can kind of navigate between, let's just say, even females and males, or if you have a very diverse workforce. They seem to have communication patterns and abilities to really navigate some differences and some struggles and challenges within the workplace. So I
Mm,
really began to see this. So that's what I did. I interviewed, and uh, there were some themes that came out. And particularly with my son, I could see it too that he was hired in New York. He moved to New York City,
yeah.
sight unseen, didn't have a place to live, didn't have a job,
Wow.
didn't have a support system like family or friends. And I thought, this is really interesting. And within a month, he had a place to live, position in an ad agency, which is not easy to do in New York City. You usually have to
Yes.
know someone. And his support system, mostly friends, were from all kinds of countries. So, it just really began to hit me more and more the impact of
Mm,
this exposure and experience that we had living in Okinawa, then eventually the Philippines, South Korea, then we moved back to the US, and when he was in about 5th grade. And so there were a lot of interesting things that happened. That might be for another podcast.
yeah.
Coming back to the U.S. school system when you've not
Yeah.
been a part of it, and some of the expectations, et cetera. And of course, having his name is Enrique after my father, who is Henry. And one teacher said, "Does he speak English?" And I said, "Well, have you talked to him?" so,
Wow. So without even
so
speaking to him, that was the first question.
right.
Wow. Look
And
at that
then just
judgment.
Yeah, and he's quite a storyteller, and, he has quite a few stories, obviously, from a childhood, in those different places. And so one teacher in 5th grade actually called me, and she said, "I think he could be a really great creative writer someday. He has just
Mm.
such an imagination." And I said, "Tell me more." And she said, "Yeah, he writes these stories, and I wonder where they come from."
Oh, wow.
And I
Wow.
said, "Well, because they're really lived experiences." He climbed the mango trees and the
Mm.
monkeys in the Philippines. He did whatever he's writing, he lived. So it just gave me more and more opportunity to say, "I need to write about this."
Mm.
And so that's what my, PhD dissertation was about, the third culture kid experience, and especially those going into the teaching field. How could they, you're looking at your classroom, let's say, of 28 students. You don't know who's a
Yeah.
TCK or who has always lived there in that city or town. Uh, so it really began in 1983, and I finished my PhD program in 2011.
Wow.
So so really almost 30 years of ideas, thoughts, pondering, reflecting, and talking to my son and then other students in particular who had lived these same experiences or similar experiences in different countries. And I thought, this really needs to be told.
Mm.
And it's really interesting, fast forward, now that I live in Florida for 18 years, the number of adults who I meet, and I can almost pick them out in some
Yeah.
ways. One particular guy I know, married to a woman from Australia, and just a neat guy, and he started talking about growing up in Kenya and then moving here and moving there, and I go, "Oh, you're a TCK." And he goes, "Tell me more." And it was almost you could see it in his face. I can
Mm,
it brings me back to that moment
mm.
when we started talking about it, and he goes, "Wow, then I'm not so weird after all." And
Oh,
so it's
wow.
not necessarily having a label, but to understand that this lived experience is so powerful and impactful on an individual and then others around them, and I think it was one of the first times, and he's probably
Mm.
in his 50s right now, that he was able to share his experiences, and of course, I was just eating it up, and he just he said, "Thank you. You
Oh.
should really go into coaching."
Ah, wow. You almost make me cry every time I talk to you, like, that just brings tears to my eyes, like, I it's so amazing. I mean, this message, I wrote down a book someday. I mean, we'll get into that too, but, like, I think, wow, just to help people feel seen and heard, know that they
Right.
belong, and that
Yes.
they have value, and how
Mhm.
amazing that lived experience wherever they are to be able to share that. And just a quick side note, as you're talking, it made me think about our kids went to a private school in Austin, Texas, but it was, a boarding school,
Mhm.
and so all these kids coming from all these different countries, I don't know how many countries were represented, but I'll never forget our son, they were talking about, I think it was something about Japan, it might have been, and one of the kids spoke up and said, "No, that's not how it happened. From my experience, this is how it happened." And I remember our kids coming home and saying the open dialogue, which is what the school really encouraged, these debates, those
Mhm.
kids learned just like this, learning from your son, learning from this gentleman from Kenya, you know? We learn so much when we take the time and listen.
Yes.
Listen about to someone, what is their experience? What made them who they are?
Right.
And, just beautiful. It just lights me up. Like, seriously, I think you have a book on this someday. I'm sure you already thought about that, but I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that was just beautiful.
But
And
it
you are a
is,
coach.
it's just been such a long passion for me, and,
Yeah.
initially, at the university, my advisory committee for my PhD, were like, I think you need to pick another subject, topic, nobody will understand," and I go, "That's exactly why I'm gonna do it,
Ah, I love
because
that.
it needs to be out there." It's not anything new. But it's not it at the time, not a lot had been written about it. Now, fast forward, I'm seeing all the time because, of course, due to social media, there's a TCK group, there's this,
Mhm.
there's that, and a lot of them are writing memoirs of their years in
Interesting.
Cambodia or, I grew up in Jordan or, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So it's just still very fascinating to me, and, of course, one of the gurus in the field, she's now in her 80s, is Ruth Van Reken, and she wrote a book co-wrote, a book with David Pollock called The TCK Experience, and so that was really a seminal book in the
Yeah.
field, and now, of course, years later, more and more is coming out, and she's even broaden the TCK field to be CCK, cross-cultural kids, meaning even in the United States. So, for instance, if we say I grew up on the seacoast of New Hampshire, and somebody else grew up in Dallas, Texas, and someone else grew up in Hollywood, California. Those
Right.
are very different experiences. Yes, the commonality is they're all in the United States and mostly English speaking. But I can honestly say my town I grew up in was 2,500 people. That's very different than growing up in a major city or in California, or even if you grew up in Nebraska or Iowa. And again, not in a way of judging people like my place was better than yours, but simply to say there is a cultural difference, even in the United States, of where we grew up. There are different cultural things going on, dialects possibly, etc. So it can
Yeah.
even be really included here in the United States. So I think it's just a fascinating field that I continue to do research in, and as I meet people
Mm.
here, especially in Florida, which is really
Yeah.
quite a transient state,
Mm.
it's just fascinating to find out. I meet people every day that, oh, well, I grew up in the Dominican Republic,
Uh,
but my parents are from the Netherlands, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just really fascinating, and
Mm,
to see my son kinda live it out now too. Ideally, he would love
mm,
to live abroad.
mhm,
His wife's not quite ready for that,
mm,
but hopefully, maybe someday that might happen even if it's for a short time.
mm. I love that. I just as you're talking too, we moved from California and then we moved to Texas and same thing. And Scott and I just traveled through Texas to go to New York. And I said, Texas has such its own culture, like, so exactly
Mhm.
what you're saying, the
Right.
pride, the dialects, the food, like, all these things, it's so true, I think that's just such a pivotal thing, and I think
Yeah.
one of the things too, Gretchen, that's such a takeaway for me, like, when we slow down long enough to pay attention, to have a
Mhm.
connection, to ask people the questions, "How'd you get here?" Like, "Who are you? Who are you really?" It's beautiful. At the end of the
Right.
day, we're all human, and we can add so much depth and breadth to one another by learning from one
Exactly.
another, right? And
Yes, I
it's just
love that.
beautiful. It's so on point with what you're saying, and I love it, and it's made your son who he is, and he's doing amazing things in New York, and it's wonderful. I had a side note questions. How many languages do you speak?
I speak 3. English was my primary language, and then in 5th grade, because of where I grew up, New Hampshire, it was quite a tourist area, so the Quebecois and a lot of Canadians came to, the coastline in the summers, so we were required to take French in
Uh-huh.
5th grade on. And then, in college, I decided to be a French and Spanish, language major, so I did both languages. So those, and then, I dabble in Japanese a little bit and Polish, which is probably one of the hardest languages for me to learn. But I love language learning in general. I find it another fascinating area. I said I should be a cat because I need 9 lives to learn all that I wanna learn. But, and you had mentioned that earlier, I am a
Yeah,
lifelong learner. I
you are.
absolutely love learning. I said
Yeah.
if you could be paid to be a student, I would be the first one at the interview because I find so many fascinating things about people, about so many topics, and I'm a researcher. I love to
Yeah.
research, and I'm always telling people, "Did you research that? Have you read
Uh,
that?" And so the other area that I've really been diving into really is, brain research and neuroscience because I lost my father to Alzheimer's 7 years ago,
oh, wow. Wow.
and actually about 12 family and friends to this just horrid disease, and so I'm
Yeah.
just totally fascinated by the brain,
Mm.
and in some ways, if I hadn't gone into teaching, my mother was a nurse, if I had many more years, but everybody's like, "You can do it. You're the type to do it at 70 to go back to nursing school and become a neuroscientist or something." So, it's a possibility. It's definitely
Wow.
on my roadmap, but I love neuroscience and the study of it and just finding out, you know, our brain is just a fascinating thing, and, so
Just one thing I wanna share, like, I have a friend, that has worked with that is a brain health trainer, like, for Dr.
mhm,
Amen, for Daniel
mhm,
Amen, and you
yes,
can take a whole course with that, just side note, we
yes,
can talk about that and do that too, like, I could see
a
you doing that.
and I
That's
followed
awesome.
Dr. Amen for several years now too,
Ah,
so, yeah.
awesome. So you're of course, you're well versed in all that.
There's just
Um,
something about the brain, I don't know, maybe that's a book title too.
yeah, there's
Um,
something about the oh, that'd be really great.
yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
did co-author a book probably 5 years ago, before COVID, called
Yeah.
"Transforming the Aging Brain" with a colleague here in Florida, and just what we can do to not necessarily prevent that horrid disease, but to really continue to I think there's so much on fitness in the physical body, but we really need to do it with our brain health as well. So, because it's all connected, our brain, body, and soul. And so I just really have been doing a lot of research and reading in that field.
Wow, I don't think I realized that you co-authored the book. Say the name again. What is the name of it?
Transforming your aging brain.
Ah, wow. I don't think I realized that. I know you wrote another book with your sister, which we'll talk about, but I didn't know that one. That's awesome. So kind of moving forward and continue to talk about that and your passion for other cultures. Just this past weekend, you spoke at a group, Delta Kappa Gamma, which you can dive into, and that was affiliated, I think, with Eagle Orzel, your
Yes.
nonprofit, or however you want to
Yeah.
share. And all that is kinda connected too to what you do for this group in Poland, where I got to speak to your group there via Zoom, just amazing. I was just telling Gretchen before we started recording that I know she does these things, but actually to see it, I was looking at all the photos, and what you put together is unbelievable. To go and do all this and lead these people for 2 weeks, it's just unreal. So dive in and share anything you wanna say about that. Say USA or whatever you wanna
Okay.
do, but just your passion about that. It's really incredible, and speaking this week for the Delta Kappa Gamma group too, so wherever you wanna go with that, it's
Mhm.
awesome.
Sure. Great. Thanks. Well, of course, I think it's somewhat true of educators, but we tend to have our plates rather full all the time. But I try to be selective in what I'm doing outside of my daily work. And two of those organizations are one is called Eagle Orville Education and Cultural Exchange, which we began with a couple of other colleagues in June 1st, 2019, right
Wow.
about as COVID was hitting. So when people say don't start something when, there are a lot of challenges and struggles going on, I say go for it. It's
Mm,
really actually an opportune time to do something that you have passion for, that brings purpose and impact to people. And so we began in 2019. We are now in our seventh year of existence. It's a nonprofit organization. Basically, our mission is to provide educational and cultural programs in Poland. And again, people say, well, why just Poland? Why can't you do the rest of the world? And I said, well, one, we're a small group of volunteers. None of us are paid. This is all out of
mm,
our hearts. And two, the two co-presidents of the organization are one is from Polish descent, and the other one, her mother came here from Poland, so they are Polish. And although my ancestry is Swedish and French, I said at our presentation, there's something about when you step on the land in Poland, there's something sacred that I
ah,
feel, and it's something that I really haven't been able to put into words, but I've been going for 10 summers now, and
wow.
we deliver camps for children ages 10 through 17, and then the program that I've been involved with for a couple of years is down in Nova Sącz, which is on the southern border almost to Slovakia, and it's for adults, female and
Mm.
male adults. And this year we were honored to have 5 men join us. I said the brave souls of Poland. And so they were fabulous to work with, and ranging in ages from all of the participants from, say, 18 years old to probably 50. We even had a
Mm.
70-year-old midwife, and she was fascinating to have in the class. So all of the instruction is in English, and the curriculum model we devised for that program is called LACE, Leadership and Community Engagement. And
Oh,
so
wow.
the whole essence of that 2-week program is to for them to practice English. They have pretty good reading and writing skills because they start at an early age in the Polish schools, but they want an opportunity to be able to speak and listen and for job promotion and things like that. So we went again this summer, and it was just a fabulous program. Partially because I live in Florida, but also because I just love flamingos. We called our main room where we would meet each day and kind of gather together and connect and then go to the classrooms, was called the flamingo room.
Oh,
And
that's
I
awesome.
and I selected that on purpose. I never do anything on a whim or random.
Yeah.
There's meaning to it. So, because the more I read about flamingos, I gathered a lot of wisdom from a flamingo. Let your colors shine, keep your balance, stand tall, be fabulous, be bold, take care of your flock. And as a group, we came up with all the F words that we could be, and I said the only one F word you can't use is one that would be obvious, and they all laughed. So
Mm,
when people laugh and English is not their first language, they're at the humor is one of the hardest parts of a language to really gather.
awesome.
So we ended with "Beach amazing," and I just love that, and they get
Oh.
they gave me the most wonderful gift of that in a poem that I'd love to read. The men actually created the poem, and I think they probably had input from all of the participants in the program, but I think this is one of my ultimate
Mm,
treasures from teaching, and I read it a lot because it
wow.
just makes me feel valued
Mm,
and that I made a difference.
mm.
A flamazing tribute to Gretchen. Gretchen from Florida's sun-kissed shore, a footloose spirit we all adore. With flamingos dancing in your feisty mind, you teach us lessons so heartfelt and kind. Your focused voice brings breath to our days, a flexible guide in mindful, flamazing ways. With sweet Caroline, we sing with glee. Your fun loving heart sets our spirits free. You shared trees by Kilmer, a nature's delight. Nature is the best teacher. Your words take flight. We are all born creative, you boldly declare. A fearless mindset lifts us beyond compare. In leadership's glow, you lead with flair. Listen, empathize, and act with care. Intentionally decide, empower with might, remove obstacles, serve with light, giving time to others a warm embrace with flamingo tails and breathing so deep. Your fantastic wisdom helps our souls leap. Dzień dobry, Gretchen, for this journey so fine. Koami, your lessons like Polish sunshine. Dziękuję for your flair and teaching divine. Our flamazing guide, forever you shine. We thank you with hearts, shaping a world so sublime.
That brings tears to my eyes. I couldn't say anything about you any better. That is just incredible. If you ever doubt, do you make an impact? I mean, incredible. You have to
And
feel so good.
they gave me that on the last night.
Ugh,
They all read it together. And again, these are probably intermediate level English speakers, but they captured the 2 weeks, everything we learned, talked about, experienced together, certain words that they selected, and I'm forever changed from these experiences that have been so honored to be a part of and to coordinate and organize, and, I just it brings tears to my eyes every time I
yeah.
read it.
Same, like, listening to you, it's just I mean, there's just so much depth to you, and as I said even in the beginning, you're witty, you're funny, but you're whip smart, and you're a teacher by trade. Just to see them see all of that in you, in that poem, like, what a blessing. What an absolute blessing. I mean, don't we all want that kinda impact to have that impact on somebody else's life, you
Well, and,
know?
at this age too, as I next month will hit level 70, I read something recently rather than saying, "How old are you? What level are you?" And I
Oh,
really love that. It has a whole different connotation, and I just love it. So I'm at level 70, which
I love
is pretty darn
that.
good.
And you just keep rising higher. Love
And
that.
people look at me sometimes and go, "She's strange." And I'm like, "What level are you?"
Love that so much.
I really love it. I think it's
Yeah,
stellar.
I'm gonna use
Um,
that. I'm at level 61.
yeah,
I
I
love
mean,
that.
really, and if you think about that,
Yeah.
I'm level 61 versus I'm level 22, and
Yeah.
again, not in a judgmental kind of way, but to simply say, you know, "Been here a while. I've experienced a lot of things, and I could share." So
Just
I
kind of
just
a
love
different
it.
mindset. It makes
Yeah,
you proud, like, you're like instead of like, "Oh, I'm, old. Wow, I'm at this level. I'm rising higher each year." Like, that's
yeah,
beautiful.
exactly.
Ooh, I'm
I
gonna
really
steal that. I love that.
yeah. I just really love it, and, I can't even I read so much, I can't remember sometimes who said what, but you're right, and I've studied, as you have too, in my last couple years of coaching, that this whole notion of mindset and shifting your mindset, and I think it does shift.
Yeah.
If you say, "How old are you?" It's like, "Hmm,"
Yeah.
versus, "What level are you?" It's like, that means you can continue to move forward.
Oh.
So I that's what I'm using, and I'm sticking with it. Anyway,
I'm gonna use it too. It's awesome.
and so that's the nonprofit that I am an officer and fundraising coordinator for. But I was honored this weekend to do a presentation about our summer programs in Poland and our organization. at another group that I belong to, which is called Delta Kappa Gamma, which
Mhm.
is a Society for International Female Educators. It began in
Mm.
Texas almost 100 years ago, and I belong to a local chapter here in St. Augustine, but we were in Orlando doing a presentation yesterday, and it was the 90th birthday of Delta Kappa Gamma in Florida, which was
Wow.
started in 1935 by a small group of women educators. And as I explained to Terry earlier, as I sat there and reflected 90 years of women in an organization and all the years in between, in 10 years, it'll be the 100th birthday of the
Mm.
state of Florida organization, and I'll be at level 79. So,
Ah,
it gave me a lot of time to reflect, and that I
yeah.
hope I will be there and I can be part of that really monumental birthday of 100 years of an organization of female educators.
Mm. It's wonderful. And you spoke as well, correct?
Yes, Mary
Mm.
Kay, my colleague, and I spoke about Eagle Orgel and our program, and we've already begun the process. In October, the applications will be available for people to apply to be teachers in our programs in Poland next summer, and we are going from 4 locations to 6 next summer.
Wow.
So we'll be looking for a lot of people who, teachers and assistants who want to go and have this life changing experience, immersion experience.
Wow. So I'll put that link in the show notes on this podcast because that'll be really
Mhm.
great. So anybody that wants to apply to go, do they need
Sure.
to be a teacher? Does that need to be in their background or just a desire to teach or have some?
Uh, we really look at all of it ideally. You know, if you're going to be a teacher, we would like you to be certified, or if you're
Okay.
retired, then that's fine. The assistants don't have to be certified, but I think, again, just bringing that wealth of knowledge of the United
Yeah.
States, of our language, of holiday, all kinds of things, and just really a desire to, again, intercultural competence
Mm.
is a lifelong experience as well. It's not something that you are born with or you experience once and, oh, I love everybody. So it really is an incredible experience, very different than traveling or taking a trip.
Mm.
It's a
Mm.
total immersion
Yeah.
experience, and then at the end of it, they take us on a weekend tour of a specific place. So usually
Mm.
in Nowy Sącz, we go to Krakow for the weekend. Other places go to Warsaw, a
Mm. Oh,
variety of
wow.
places, and give us that whole experience.
Wow, that's amazing. I got a kick out of one of the guys, younger guys, that asked me the question about where I lived, and then when I told him, like, Palm Springs area, and he goes, "Oh, is that near Indian Wells, the tennis?" I'm like, "Oh," because 'cause I'm going blank on one of the tennis players right now that's ranked
Yeah,
really high, that's Polish, and so,
Iga,
that was such a pardon? Is it oh,
Iga,
the one that won the Wimbledon. It's female. And
yes, Iga
oh,
Sky.
that's I was like, "I know who it
Yeah,
is, but I can't remember." Oh, that's
yeah,
right.
yeah,
So I got such a kick out of that. I'm like, "Oh, it's just awesome what connects us no matter where we live, right? No matter where
right,
we are, something can
right,
connect us." And I just thought that was
right.
such a great question. One of the other things that you were sharing, and then we'll go into the other questions, but one of the things you were sharing too is that you have an opportunity when you go to this Delta Gamma, when you went to the event, there are other speakers and you went and sat in on something they were talking about AI. And I loved, again, you're a very curious and avid learner, so
Mhm.
you always are open, embracing things. And I loved what you said. You kind of share kind of your takeaways. I thought it was really great what you said that you like AI, but
Yeah, and I have to be honest to say, when I first heard of AI, I thought, "Oh, dear."
yeah,
It kind of reminded me of growing up watching The Jetsons, and it's really
yeah,
happening. And,
yeah,
that's sort of a generational gap too, because if you say The Jetsons, some look at you like, "What's that?" But I said, in some ways, it really is coming to bear. So, initially, AI for me, I was like, because people always wonder how I create and develop programs and courses and classes, etc. And they always ask me what book it's from, and I say the book is called The Brain.
yeah. I
um,
love that.
I said it really does. It comes from my brain, and I think again it's something that I was very honored to receive from my
Mm,
father, who is a very
yeah,
creative man, and I'm not surprised my son went into advertising, but I just think that I come up with a theme, an idea, and then I do all kinds of roadmaps and vision boards and all kinds of things, and then to see it actually executed and come to pass, last summer in Poland was just it was 2 years in the making, and so it was
Yeah.
just really phenomenal. So I did. I went to a session about technology and using technology, and again, as our organization continues to grow, there are younger educators coming into the organization, which is great.
Yeah.
And then we have retirees and people who are really aging and at higher levels.
Yeah.
And so of course there's some disagreement, but again, my father always said there's nothing wrong with a healthy debate, which I
Mm.
love, and
Yeah.
I always say that to people because all of us won't agree on everything, and we will
Right.
disagree. I think it's how we approach disagreement and debates
Mhm.
that's really the key piece, and I think
Mm.
that's been lost as well in our society. So I did attend the session. It was about AI and specifically using AI in schools and
Mm.
lessons and how they do that. And so, I would say women under 45 that have been teaching maybe 20 years or more are really
Mhm.
using a lot of technology and AI in their classrooms, which was really inspiring to hear
Yeah.
how they use that and in what way. And then they also presented, things that you need to do to protect yourself, be safe,
Mm. Mm.
etcetera, on computers, whatever devices you use, as well as your phone. So it was very informative,
Mm.
very helpful, but I think several of us at a certain level came out and just felt really exhausted.
Mm.
Like, it just seemed like a lot more work to have a phone and what you can and can't do and to protect yourself, etcetera, and how to use it for, paying bills, etcetera, etcetera.
Oh, wow.
And I think I am still one of the strange ones who loves to write checks. And so but I left there inspired,
Yeah.
feeling informed, and then I think it's how you take the information and what you wanna keep and what you decide for yourself or your family that at this time is just not doable, or you'd like to do a little more research or investigation about it.
Yeah, no, that's so good, and I think that's probably a whole other conversation I'd love to have with you
Right,
just because I see it
right.
coming into schools and these conversations about that. And I think that's just wisdom, like, how do we use it, not just for
Yes,
getting on
yes,
there and acting like it's a therapy session, but how do you use it for strategy or, like you say, for
right,
paying bills and helping you in your life, but not spending hours getting lost in it rather than having connection with
right,
other humans. And, we even talked about what that how that applies to even books and things like that, but actually having a book tangibly in your hand versus, just reading
right.
it online. So from there, share a little bit about because you kinda shared a lot about, why you love this work so much and where you're headed with this. Was there anything else you wanted to say about the Delta Kappa Gamma before I move on?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the Eagle Orville nonprofit as well as Delta Kappa Gamma are 2 organizations that I've really been a part of now. Eagle Orville for 7 years and Delta Kappa
Mhm.
Gamma for about 3 when I was inducted into the society. But I look forward to really being more involved in it, and I have asked for the next 2 years after June to be president of the Delta Kappa chapter
Yeah.
in my area, and
Mhm.
so, initially, I thought, I'm not sure I wanna do that as I move out of the workforce and into more of the things that I love and light me up and that I just have a passion and a purpose for, but
Yeah.
I think that conference
Mm.
confirmed for me that it's something that I need to do because the theme is be a change maker, and
Mm.
so I really felt a nudge that I do need to take that leadership role.
I love that, and you are. You're such a leader, and you are a change maker, and you're inspiring, like, you're so you might be at level 69, but your energy is so young, you know? Like, your energy is so young, and I know you connect with young people really, really well,
Yeah,
and I see you
yeah,
being a leader, and like you said, you're really hoping that younger women come into this organization, you know? And I said, I think with AI, kinda back to
mhm,
AI, we need this connection even more. We need to get belly to
yeah,
belly and heart to heart and soul to
right,
soul and have this really honest connection and conversation, much like we were talking about. You know, who are people? Who are you really? Because it just comes across so different, right? When you're in person
right,
versus,
yeah,
whatever.
mhm.
And AI can't
Well,
do
and
that
I've
for us.
yeah, and I've had a lot of younger women, approach me recently, probably, I'd say later, later 30s and 40s,
Ah.
just saying, "How do you do all of this?" You know,
Mm.
be a mother, be a wife, be a whatever, fill in the blank,
Right.
and work full time outside of the home and all of that. And so it's really given me food for thought because
Mhm.
again, you know, I think there's that fine line between wisdom because we do have years of experience of challenges, struggles, and how we sort of picked ourselves up, dusted
Right.
ourselves off, and started all
Right.
over again. And so, I find that even with my daughter-in-law,
Mm.
she asks me often now, "How
Mm.
have you done all this? How have you worked,
Wow.
taught, taught at night, been a mother, a wife, a sister,
Mm.
caretaker to your parent? How did you do all that?" And so I think, again, it's not to boast or any of that, but I think the years of experiences and how you did do
Mm.
it and, grow through it, I think is the
Yeah.
key. Not
Yeah.
go through it, but grow through it, because
Mm.
life is really a growing, developing, never giving up kind of experience, I think, and so it's just trying to
Mm.
figure out all of that, and I'm not sure I think at different moments, you balance it differently.
Right. Oh, I love that so much. It's so true, and how awesome that she's coming to you. I mean, you're just such a leader too for that generation, I think. You really inspire people so much, Gretchen. And that kind of leads to the next thing. Like after you and I did some coaching, you actually went and did a deeper course with Mary Morrissey and became
Mhm.
certified, which I see. I see coaching and teaching and all
Uh-huh.
that just so wired deeply within you. Do you wanna share anything, any takeaways or because I know you're navigating kinda moving into the another season of your life. You've
Right,
mentioned, leaving the workforce and now what's next, you know?
right.
And I know you're just gonna keep on going, with all that you do. So share whatever you feel like sharing about that journey and where you are, what you're
Yeah.
thinking, and how all that was for you.
Well, first, I want to thank you again because when Terry and I met, and again, I don't think anything is random or just a happenstance. I
Yeah.
think it was a divine intervention. And
Mm.
I was home from some major surgery, the first one in my life. And, I don't do well being in bed or being at home. And so Terry and I were connected online and just had a fabulous experience with Terry as a
Mm.
coach and now as a friend and
Yeah.
a colleague, actually,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And so it did inspire me because through my years of teaching, et cetera, a number of people have said, you really should think about coaching someday. And I was a coach for soccer. I was an athlete in high school and college also. So I always felt like coaching was guiding
Mm.
and not directive necessarily. And so I looked into that and I did. I took a year long course, very intensive course. I forget how many, 16 modules. It was all online, which was a challenge for me because I do like the human interaction in learning. And
Mm.
so that was the only thing I kind of missed because it was a lot of alone time on these modules and you didn't have others to necessarily bounce ideas or questions or challenge a thought or something. So,
I didn't
and
know that. Huh.
yeah. And so but it was phenomenal,
Yeah.
learned a lot of knowledge and skills,
Yeah.
and, I think what really came out of it for me, as well as other webinars and classes I was taking online, is that whole notion of mindset, but also I think we get so wrapped up in if you wanna change careers or as I'm contemplating leaving the workforce after 55 years and going out on my own and either doing
Mhm.
coaching or mentoring, or even returning to working with English language learners. What does that look like? And I think many of us kind of get caught up in the, but is it the right time? Do I have enough money?
Mhm.
Will people come? All of those hows,
Yeah,
all the steps of how I'm going to do something. And I
right.
think what came from Terry, as well as from Mary Morrissey's course, is the why is the critical part
Mm,
of
mhm,
why do I want to do XYZ? And when that's really, really clear, then I think in terms of marketing yourself, that why is so critical. And Simon Sinek, so many talk about
mm,
this. Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, all of the people in the field talk about get really clear on why you want to do something because that
mhm,
will really motivate you on the day you think, well, I'm not really doing what I want, or if it's really, really clear, then I
mm,
think that gives you the momentum on the tough days and momentum even on the really good days of going forward with whatever it is that you decide to do. So I
mm,
think that that why is so critical, and I find myself on a daily basis if people are saying, "Well, I'd really like to do da da da," and I go, "Why?" And they look at me
mm,
like, "Oh." And it really challenges people to think about why they wanna do it. Is it for money, more money, extra money? Is it for time freedom? Is it for to build a better relationship? Is it to do something different in the vocational field? Is it, for your own health and well-being? So, those sort of 4 areas, and then deep dive even more of why. Why
yeah,
do you wanna work on the relationship, and so as Terry knows, and Terry is too, to be a deep thinker, I'm not
mm,
a surface person, so I wanna know deeper and deeper. And,
yeah.
last year, my daughter-in-law actually called me a prober, and at
Oh,
first I was very offended and insulted, and I thought, "Hmm, that's rude." But she qualified herself and said, "No, you ask really deep and
mm,
thoughtful questions, and it's why you've had such a success in your education career and even now in
mm,
your health and fitness career that you've been doing. You really relate to people and you just
yeah,
wanna get to know them, and, those why questions really ask them
mm,
to dig deeper." And so I really love that, and then
mm,
once that why is so crystal clear to yourself and to others,
mm,
then the other parts come along. Either,
mm,
if it's you need $1,000 to get started or $100 to send to the publisher or whatever it might be, that comes when you're really, really clear, about your purpose and your passion and what you wanna do.
ah, that's so good. That's a huge golden nugget. That is so good. I was thinking about the 7 levels deep that Dean talks about,
Yeah.
and you kinda do that naturally. You kinda go deeper and deeper and deeper in why until you kinda get to
Mhm.
the core of what's really motivating you to do whatever it is you wanna do, which is really powerful. Wow, I love that. That's just beautiful. So that was a huge takeaway. I and thank you for comparing me to Mary Morrissey. I'll take that as a huge compliment, but, I'm always been intrigued by who she is, and at her level where she is, it's just
Yeah,
on many her age and her inspiration that she continues just to lead people forward is really beautiful. So, I thank you for sharing that. I don't know a whole lot about her program, I just know she's so highly respected, so that's really
yeah,
great and insightful for what that is. I didn't realize it was a whole year-long program too.
yeah,
Um,
and
so
part of her is also her voice, and by
mm,
that I mean I really feel like it's from her heart and her soul, and she is very knowledgeable and has many years of experience and people she's met along the way that have mentored her and had many challenges and some real deep struggles along the way. So it
mm,
hasn't been, a straight road. There have been some real difficulties along the way, and so,
Mhm.
but she kept going and believed
Wow.
in what it was she was doing. And now to involve her 4 adult children in her business too, to carry on the legacy is the way I see it. So I really love that. And so, at this point, at this level of my life, you
Yeah.
begin to think about your legacy and what is
Right.
it that you want to leave to your children, to your family, to your friends, to your community and nation and the world at large. What is
Absolutely.
it that you want to be remembered for? And
Yeah.
so I think a lot about that now. And as I'm contemplating, that transition from working for somebody else to my own, what will that look like? And how will I pass that on, particularly to my son and daughter in law or, anyone else? So I think that's really important to begin to think about.
Yeah, it's interesting too, Gretchen, just knowing how much I know about you. I just heard someone talking about something on a podcast, like show up as a business owner, like live your
Hmm.
life like that. And from what I know, you've done that, even though you have worked for someone else.
Hmm.
Technically, you show
Yeah.
up as though it's yours. Like you take
Hmm.
that much passion, and you really lead that way. Like this is yours. And I
Hmm.
you're an entrepreneur already, you know what I mean? I guess that's where I'm
Hmm.
going with that is that
Yeah.
I think this will be a pretty easy transition for you just because you
Yes.
have it in you so much already. So, well, I just love all that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So one kind of final question too, like if you want to share, like, so you've got this one book you've co-authored. I
Hmm.
think you have another book in you that's yours, but you also wrote a book with your sisters. I'm gonna put that link in the show notes too, because it's a
Sure.
children's book. You have a beautiful, beautiful relationship with your sisters. If you wanna share a little bit about that, and then I'm gonna have you share some fun things about yourself that maybe you haven't shared already. Share a little bit about that because I think that's just really cool to write a children's book. And the title of it?
Um, the title is The Three Butterfly Sisters by Karen, Gretchen, and Heidi. And we wrote it in memory of our father, who was a
Mhm,
great storyteller, bedtime storyteller, and storyteller in general. He was a World
mm,
War II vet in Patton's Third Army. So he shared a lot of that. And it was really powerful for my son. But after he passed away in 2017, I have an older sister and a younger sister. She's in California. My older sister lives in northern Florida on Amelia Island. And I said to
mm,
both of them, Dad loved telling that story of the three butterfly sisters, which he created. And I said, I don't know what else to do in his memory, but I think it would be great to put it in writing so that we don't
mm.
forget, number one. And number two, to again carry his legacy on of family love and loyalty, which he basically advocated throughout our whole lives. And so, we did it, one, to honor him, two, to pass on his legacy to our children and grandchildren, etc., and three, to just not forget. And this was again during COVID. So
Wow.
and we wanted to do it as a gift to our family who are left, cousins and a few aunts and uncles,
Mm,
and to our own children and then grandchildren to come. So we did, and it just flowed so quickly and naturally. I think we rewrote it, or we could almost hear our dad telling us in a very, very short period of time. My sister Heidi found a great illustrator in the Philippines through one of those online freelancers, and we
mhm,
said we wanted it to be watercolors, showing on the seacoast of New Hampshire, which she had never seen, but, she had the idea in her head. And again, she came back in very short period of time with all of the illustrations, and we were just blown away because it was just what we had pictured in watercolor on the seacoast of New Hampshire, and just the vibrant colors because there's a red butterfly, a blue, and a yellow. And my older sister's red, I'm blue, and Heidi, the youngest, is yellow. And so, again, it's a story of family love and loyalty. It's on Amazon, and
mm,
we also have our own website that you can get it from. But what we found after we gave it to, the family that is left, and our children and a couple grandchildren that are here, that other people, mostly adults, wanted to buy the book.
Mm.
And so where I work, I displayed it and several people bought it and they just said, especially during the struggles of COVID and people
Mm.
were home a lot more and really struggling with peace and just missing
Mm.
family and loyalty and all of those themes that are in the story. They bought the book, and it was kind of again, we had this idea, and it just morphed into so much more than we could have ever thought. I think we've
Mm.
had now 3 reprintings of the book. Um, we've
Wow.
we've attended a couple of book festivals locally. It's in a bookstore here in Amelia Island, and I also brought it to Poland, so, our next step possibly is to translate it into Spanish, and I even
Mm.
have a couple students saying they would like to translate it into Polish. So, again, you have an idea, you really have no idea where it's
Mm.
gonna go and how far-reaching it's gonna be. So and
Mm.
again, we it's in memory of our father and our mother because her beautiful gardens are
Mm.
in the illustrations. So, I don't wanna reveal too much of the story, but
Yeah.
basically, again, the themes are family, love, and loyalty, which
Mm.
during COVID we certainly needed and missed a lot. And now I think we need it more than ever in the world.
Yep.
So it is a children's book, and
Mm.
it was really a very exciting journey to do with my sisters. We're very, very close. We're best friends, and we
Mm.
live far apart from each other, but we just continue to say, what else can we do with this?
Mm.
So that's kind of where we're at this point, but we're really
Yes.
seriously thinking of translating it into Spanish at the very least.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm gonna get this book for a friend of mine that loves butterflies. There's a whole symbol of it behind
Yeah,
it, a whole
exactly.
meaning for her, and,
Right.
I'm gonna get it for her. It's beautiful. It really is so well done, and I'll put that here. You all have an Instagram for that too, so I'm gonna put all these fun things in just for
Yes.
people.
Yes.
I mean, this is just the whole thing. There's so much, like I said in the beginning, there's so much depth and breadth to you. So thank you for sharing this because it's just it's wonderful, and I'd love to know your illustrator too, because 'cause I'm helping somebody write a book, and she needs some help with the book cover, so that would be
Yeah.
really awesome.
Well, and
Wow.
I think the other, because on the Transforming Your Aging Brain, there's a butterfly on the front cover of that book. So, I mean, I love butterflies because I love the symbolism,
Mm,
and I think it's, in our life journey, we can use it very easily, we're always transforming in
right.
roles, in what we're doing, what we're saying. And so I love the whole idea of course, part of loving cultures and languages and studying
Mm,
them and traveling is the transformative power of travel and what
mm,
it does to you as an individual. You can't come back to your home country the same. You just
yeah.
can't. And, so another quote I love is I think it's IBN and then Battuta. He was a 14th century Moroccan scholar, and he
Mhm.
said, "Traveling, it leaves you speechless, then it turns you into a storyteller."
Oh, wow. Well, that's putting a bow on everything, even just
Mhm,
back to what Enrique, what a creative writer he was,
mhm.
and you too, you're a great storyteller.
And I just love that. I
Ah,
think it's true. It's the stories you come back with, the people you've met, the experiences you've had, and,
mm,
I really love that, the transformative power of traveling and meeting people and connecting.
mm,
And
I
so,
love that.
you asked me what lights me up, travel,
Yep,
obviously, and it
yep.
doesn't have to be international, it can be even within Florida or across the US, it's just fascinating. Like I said, they're on enough years, I feel like, to do all of it. And then developing programs and classes, helping people, guiding people, and really just learning, reading and
Mm,
learning and all of those things light me up, energize
mm,
me, and, ask me to do more.
yeah,
What else is there for me to find out about?
mm. I think it's so great. It just kind of encapsulates all that you are. You have such a passion for people too, and really making a difference and getting to know people. And you teach in kind of such a unique way, Gretchen. Like I don't know, it's just different. You've got so much knowledge, but you disseminate the information in just such a beautiful way, in a loving way,
Mhm,
like what the students in Poland, the way they said it, you
mhm,
know?
mhm.
Even here, like, it's just I'm captivated. This is the longest podcast I've ever done, and I'm just captivated by who you are. There's just such a depth to you, and it's just magic. It really is. I'm excited for what's the next chapter for you to see what you do with it because you're going to definitely have great impact. You already do, but I think a lot more to come, you know? Lots of great things. On that note, share a fun fact and then we'll end it after that, but share kind of a fun fact, something maybe we don't know or something you want to share about yourself. Um, you love the ocean.
For sure. Kind of a funny fact, I guess, is that when I lived in the Philippines, I mean, I've always loved shoes. And particularly way back in the '70s and 80s, the stilettos, etcetera. I tried to wear a
Yeah.
pair of high heels yesterday, and, oh, my feet were killing me after 5 minutes, but I still wore 'em 'cause it just felt so good to be in heels again.
Mm,
So going to your symbolism of the different
mm,
shoes to wear, and so, I don't know, there's something powerful for me to when I'm in heels,
mm,
so I wore them yesterday even though my feet were hurting, but I always have loved shoes, flats, heels, boots, you
mm,
name it, sneakers, whatever, high tops or whatever, as well as clothes. I suppose another field I would have loved to have been in was fashion because I just love
mm.
clothes, shoes, jewelry, all that, but, and putting it together. But, actually, one of the 2 funny things. One, yesterday at the conference, as we started our presentation, I had on a dress and my red high heels and my red headband, and one of the participants in the group said, "You look like a Polish princess."
Oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome.
And so I took a little curtsy and I said, "Thank you very much." But when I lived in the Philippines, so that was in, like, the late '80s, Imelda Marcos, of course, was the first lady of the Philippines at the time, and she was known for her shoe collection. And so when I was there was a wonderful shoe store, and I bought every color, every
Uh-huh.
flat, every heel, you know, I I wouldn't wanna say how many pairs I had. And so, people all seem to recognize, my shoes a lot, and I love beads and, all
Mm,
those kinds of things, and I think that's from my father's, mother. She was very fashion oriented, and quite a poet. She had 3 volumes of unpublished poems, so my sister Heidi has kind of inherited that talent. But I do when I go to the ocean, I do write some poems, as Terry knows. So that's kind of a funny fact about, just I still am a shoe lover. I go into a store and go, "Oh, I don't need them, but I want them."
I love that so much about you. I mean, clearly just because of my book, the whole thing, right, with the metaphors
Yeah,
of shoes, but
yeah,
also just a fun fact, this is another thing we have in common because when I was in a small group when we were in Austin, and we did this exercise, like, who had the most shoes in the closet, and I shocked people. By far, it was me, and same thing, and I love really fun, unique, different ones, and
yeah.
so what a fun fact to learn. I love that about you. That's awesome.
And I think the other is hats. I have quite a
Oh.
collection of hats, and I think part of it comes from there's a children's book, an older children's book, but I always read it in my kindergarten class called Caps for Sale, and he had all these caps up on his head, like, I forget how high, and so I've always just been a hat collector. I
Ah,
think maybe I should have been born in the '30s or something because I
mm,
just love that whole era with hats and gloves and all of that. So yesterday when they asked us to wear a hat, I was, like, first in line. People were like, "Oh,
uh,
I don't wanna wear a hat. I don't look good in the hat," all that monkey chatter we do to ourselves. And I
yeah.
said, "Oh, find a hat and just go for it." And so I have been known as the encourager, but I have ball caps, I have, a variety of hats, and, even in Poland, they kinda know me for that. The first thing I did was find a shop where I could buy a Polish hat to wear, and so I don't know, there's something about a hat, and where I work, when I wear hats and boots in the wintertime, the men just go crazy over it. I don't know what it is, but
Wow.
they really notice, and I don't know if it's courage or confidence that it
Mm.
brings out in someone, but they're like, "I just love that hat. I just love those boots." And I just
Wow.
always find that fascinating. Men are very drawn to women that pay attention to those kinds of things. And I
Mm.
guess just one other fun fact, I think it's fun, is I love to dance, and I really miss dancing. When we were growing up, my father, when he came back from the war, was a dance instructor in Boston, to put himself through Boston University.
Wait, your
So,
dad went to Boston University?
yes,
That's where my 2 boys went. That's
yes.
awesome. I had no
Yeah,
idea. That's
and
amazing.
and my dad created his own program because he wanted to go into what they used to call personnel. Now, of course, it's HR, and they didn't have it, so he wrote his own program and graduated from BU, with a
Oh.
degree. Yeah, and that's how he met my mother. She was in nurses training in Boston, and that's how they met in a over Lifesavers in the candy store.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so every Sunday, after church, and it was more of a family day, Sundays at home, and he would put on different music and teach us foxtrot and cha-cha and swing and all the different dance. And so I've always loved dance and music. So when I met Jack when I was teaching at the university, we met at a dance. And so dance is an important part of my life. And in the Poland program, we did a couple of dance routines. And at first, everyone's like, oh, I mean, especially I would say the US staff were less courageous than the Polish
Yeah.
participants. And when I said, we're going to start each morning with a breath work and then also with music and movement, you should have seen like the horror on people's faces, like, I don't like to
That's
dance. I said, but you will. You'll learn to like it in some way. But the Polish participants took it right on and they loved it. And we learned the electric slide, we learned the cha cha, and they just absolutely loved it.
how
So,
fun.
again, in my next chapter, I'd really like to somehow either go back for some dance lessons or attend. There are a couple of evening programs where you can go learn Latin dances or whatever. And my former husband is from Venezuela, so we used to dance quite a bit. The
Mm.
bachata and all the different dances. So I would say that.
How fun. I have another friend that I've met that I interviewed on one of my podcasts actually competes. She does all the, with the partner dancing and all those beautiful
Hmm.
gowns and
Yeah,
all of that.
yeah,
Do you ever have any
yeah,
desire to do anything like that?
yeah. When I first moved to Palm Coast, I did go to Arthur Murray, and they wanted me to do that, but I'm not. I like more the expression of dancing as
Mm,
opposed to the competition of
mm,
dancing.
yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think I'd wanna do that. I do still have my dance shoes that I bought, but I don't really have a desire to go all over the world and
Yeah.
win medals.
Yeah. You have other passions. Yeah. That's
I have
awesome.
a little more impact than that.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. Wow, Gretchen, this has just been unbelievable. I just am so grateful for you. Like I said, I'll put all the links in the show notes here just about your books, both of them, Eagle Orzel, and just for those that want to volunteer that would consider
Mhm,
doing that, and the website and all that. So yeah, I just thank you. I just thank you for who you are. I'm so grateful for our friendship. And thank you for being a part of my life, for continuing to be part of it. You are a light and I cannot wait for this episode to air. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do it in 1 or 2, but there's just so many golden nuggets and so many things that will really inspire women no matter where they are, what in their
mhm,
life, what they're thinking of. It's just never too late, right? To be an avid learner, keep going, keep trying and growing, you know? Like,
yeah.
you just inspire and your energy, like I said, your energy is so young. You've got such great energy, such a great spirit. So thank you. Thank you for your time today.
Well, I wanna thank you, Terry, too. All I can say, it was a divine intervention 2 years
Mhm,
ago, and for your coaching and guiding and your
mhm,
encouragement, and you continue to do that, and now being part
mhm,
of Red Low Circle, and
mhm.
I think we do have a lot more connections. Every time we talk, we find out something else that's like, "Oh, you too?" And so I think there's something to be said for that, especially as
Mm,
women, like, "Oh, you're feeling that way too?" Or "Did you ever think this?" Or that kind
mm,
of thing, and I think that as we transform constantly and grow and
yep,
develop, that's why we're still here. And I think it is not only our honor, but also our legacy to pass it on and what we've learned and how we continue to grow and develop and how we got to where we are. There's
mm,
never a straight road, I don't think. And so, I always think back to the poem of Robert Frost, the two roads and they diverged and I took the one less traveled, and
mm,
so, I get a lot of inspiration from poetry and quotes
mm,
and my son. I love him
mm,
dearly, and,
mm,
I'll probably be going up there in October to see him
mm.
for my birthday. We were gonna go to Paris, but his work schedule is really out of sight right now, so we've
Yeah.
postponed that till spring, but he goes, "But mom, you have to come to New York City because all the friends here wanna have a birthday party for your level 70."
Oh, that's amazing. Oh,
Mhm.
I can't wait. And that I want other people ever I'll put the link to where they can follow you on Facebook too. You put some great quotes and things on there. So, well, that'll be amazing. I hope you have a wonderful time in New York. It's one of my favorite places to go,
I
especially in the fall. Like, it's just
I know.
spectacular.
And I
Um,
just wanna thank you for this opportunity to share
mm,
and to, really just encourage, especially midlife women, that we're
mm,
a part of in the Red Low Circle to really, just get that why really clear, and
mm.
that really opens a lot of doors and windows, I think, so.
Well, thank you. And I'll tell you kind of a fun thing. The one thing about chat, really fun, just quickly before we go,
Yeah.
I don't like it for writing. It's one of the I struggled with it really in the beginning, but I love it for like brainstorming and
Mhm.
strategizing and different things. But I was putting in different things about Red Low Women's Circle. And one of the things that came back at me, which I love, which I'll share everybody with in a few weeks, it said it's the red hot sisterhood.
No,
I'm like,
I
oh,
love
I
that.
love it. Is that
I
awesome?
I love that. I
Isn't that
really do.
great? I was
Yes,
like,
I love
ah.
that
It just nails
because
it.
it
Well,
yeah.
thank you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Gretchen. Continue to follow Gretchen, see what's ahead for her, her coaching wherever she heads. But just stay connected. And, if you want to come join the Red Low Women's Circle, Gretchen's going to be there. Going to have her as one of my
Yes,
speakers, too. So,
I'll be
anyway,
there with one of my hats or shoes on.
there you go.
All
Well,
right,
thank
thank
you
you
all.
so
Thanks.
much.
Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you have a few key takeaways that you can apply to your life. And if you don't mind, take a few moments and leave a review that lets other women know that we're here making a difference in your life and theirs as well. Until we meet again, God bless.